Hello again. It is Crew Call presented by Flow Racing, the home of NASCAR roots. We're going into the garage area. We are having a ball doing it as well. I'm Steve Post, pit road reporter for Motor Racing Network, joined by 25-time and championship-winning crew chief, 25 race-winning, championship-winning crew chief. Sometimes I say that so fast, it just kind of all
blurs together.
His name is Todd Gordon. How are you,
Former
Todd?
crew chief. How about that?
Former crew chief. There you go. How are you?
I'm good. I'm
Fantastic.
good. What a
Woo!
glad to be sitting on this side of the fence, right?
That has been a common. There's been a couple common themes this year, and the one common theme related to this show and you is, man, I'm glad I'm not one of those guys. What a chaotic finish to the Roval itself was fascinating. Just because of the way that race raced, and you knew when that caution came out that we took what was a lackluster Roval race and turned it into chaos. With one sign on the racetrack, it turned upside down.
And Adam Stevens had to be just licking his chops when the first 6 cars didn't pit, because as you look at it, the 20 car went there with only one agenda. The only thing that the only focus of the day was we need to win this race.
Right.
He's riding around in 7th place. They kind of hung in that 6th, 7th, 8th place all day long, which, I mean, really, for where the Toyota camp has been,
relatively speaking, on the road courses,
pretty decent deal. The top 6 stay out. I mean, if I've got to win, I've got 4 laps to go. I can't beat them straight up.
No,
I'm going to put tires on and have an advantage on them. And I think it'd be curious to see, and maybe it's one of the questions for our guest later.
Yeah, we got Wally Brown, the competition director for Joe Gibbs Racing, joining us.
I feel like Adam Stevens executed that perfectly. I think there was a pressure adjustment, more like qualifying.
Right.
I feel like he was on top of that where some of the other cars weren't, because, I mean, Harvick was the leader coming to that.
Yep.
The second to last race, still finished second.
Right.
On
so
30 lap old tires.
Well, the tire thing was fascinating, and we documented. I was doing PA there, and we documented it. Joey Logano, Paul Wolfe, they won stage 1.
Yes.
They came out 23rd.
Yeah.
They raced only to 21st in stage 2. So passing in tires. So Adam probably did something as far as the air pressure and stuff for those tires, I'm assuming.
He took advantage. He short pitted both the stages to keep his track position.
Yes, he did.
But I gotta believe that pressures were up to what you would do to qualify.
Right.
Because that's, you look at these cars and that's what they've got left, and they make speed out of it. So you don't have to go 10, 12, 14 laps.
No.
And honestly, it worked out great for him, because you go your 2, and sometimes if you blow the tires up too much, after 2, they go away.
Right.
But then we had another caution.
Yeah, exactly.
And you got to know that late in a race, in a cutoff race at a place that has 17 turns of contact.
Yeah, absolutely.
The cautions breed cautions.
Exactly.
So, it was
Adam. I think you're right. I think Adam executed this race flawlessly, from keeping in the hunt, keeping in the top 10. And then opportunity fell into his lapping season.
Yep.
That's what a crew chief does. That's what you guys were. That's what you were doing. That's what you guys were paid the big bucks for, because you've got to execute that strategy.
And the day had lulled people into, I'm not going to pit, because to what you talked about, right? The 22 and 24 finished first and second in stage 1.
Right.
And they were non-factors the rest of the day.
No.
Just because you couldn't make up for that. And the only car I saw drive a little bit far forward was after stage 1. I thought the 5 car recovered. They scored stage points in stage 2. But then 22 did as well, but that's only because everybody short pitted in front of them.
Short pitted in front of them. Yeah.
It was a tough going for guys to make passes with the next gen car there.
We saw a lot of chaos around the playoff bubble, and we end up seeing the defending champ Kyle Larson out.
Yeah.
We see Daniel Suarez out, mechanical. That was just the power steering, whatever there. And then Austin Cindric, just, it's just, when you get to this level, performance has got to be here. And I think Austin was just a tick behind it, basically.
Yeah, I was surprised to see the errors made in the day.
Yeah.
Amongst all the playoff guys.
Right.
I mean, if you go backwards through your list, and Jeremy Bullins made the piece on the radio. He messed up the call on stage 2. Right. They stayed out to try to get stage points and never got them. And that buried him in the field. He needed to flip. He needed to realize that they weren't going to get stage points and flip that stage and pit 3 laps before. Right. And he missed that call. And that inevitably put them in a position. I know they were there on the bubble, but they were there on the bubble because they gave up 12 spots.
Right. And
not
they
short
were
pitting.
the only reason, and they're there in the bubble because other guys were struggling too. It was they needed help. They had some help from other guys.
I mean, the 1 car had issues. He just flat hit the wall on his own.
Yeah.
The 5 car, there's no reason the 5 car. I have a ton of appreciation for Kyle Larson's talent.
I do too.
And I think the fact that he can run up on the ragged edge all the time is part of why he could drive forward in stage 2. But I mean, he hit the wall on his own.
Yeah.
He had to come fix a toe link and go 5 laps down because he hit it wasn't like somebody ran into him.
Right. We're living in a world where it's like, what about this? What about this? What about this? If Kyle Larson, and if you know my background, the sprint car background, I am as pro Kyle Larson as anyone on the planet. If Kyle Larson doesn't drive that car into the wall, it doesn't matter what all of these other scenarios are. It doesn't matter if he doesn't drive the car into the wall.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised. You know, the situational awareness piece. And this is, I think back to, and we talked a little bit about this in the prep to it, but I think back to Jimmy Johnson, the first Roval. He's in.
Right, when he's running second to Martin
But he
Truex
tries
Jr.
to beat Martin Truex Jr., spins out and gets himself out. Like, that situational awareness thing, I just don't see how, I don't know how guys missed that. And really, at that point in the race, after stage 2, they've scored stage points in both of them.
Yeah.
Give me 80%.
Right.
Let's just ride the day out.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean, I love the racer. I'm with you on that from the championship thing. I love that Jimmy tried to go for the win, but boy, it was a big roll of the dice, and they lost. It was a bigger loss than probably the win would have been.
We won the war.
You won the war, exactly. That's
know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with you. It's fascinating dynamic when we in racers and great race car drivers. Sometimes they can't help themselves. Yeah. And that is a great thing. They can't help themselves.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. But that's where to me a spotter and a crew chief need to help them.
Yeah. So
get back into the whole piece here.
Yeah,
so
absolutely,
it's just one of those things. And really, the drive of the 14 car of Chase Briscoe,
right
after getting spun out in the first caution and being and used up, put tires on. The first lap they went to green, he passed 9 cars in that lap and got himself into a transfer position. The only team in the round of 12 that had 3 top 10 finishes, Chase Briscoe. How about that?
The team that won the first round was Christopher Bell. They were the most consistent team.
Yes.
Chase Briscoe was the most consistent team in the second round, and they're both in the round of 8. So we'll see what happens. Fascinating stuff, it really is. And we have got a fascinating guest as well. Wally Brown is the competition director for Joe Gibbs Racing. Cannot wait to talk to Wally. We'll talk to him next. Welcome back. It is Crew Call, the new home of NASCAR Roots. Well, the new home this year of NASCAR Roots, and we've got a full year. It's like the next gen car and the new home of NASCAR Roots. We're done with both of those.
That's Flow Racing.
Flow Racing, exactly. The home of NASCAR Roots. So glad you joined us here, and we are joined on the guest line from over at Joe Gibbs Racing in Huntersville, North Carolina. He is the competition director over there. Wally Brown joins us. Hello, Wally. How are you?
Good morning, guys. Yeah, I'm doing well, thanks.
We had Wally. We kicked around your name last week and said, we need to dial up Wally. We need to dial up Wally. We just need Christopher Bell and Adam Stevens to do something spectacular to really do this. How about that from Adam and Christopher on Sunday at the Roval? Boy, I'll tell you what, that was well done.
Yeah, I mean, certainly something that no one was expecting, especially from our side. But I mean, I think it just goes to show you, anything can happen and you never give up. And, it was awesome to see.
Yeah, definitely. I thought they executed the race, qualified in the top 10, I think, 8th and committed to flipping the stages, maintaining the track position. We're in position. And I honestly thought, Adam had to just salivate when he saw 6 cars stay out in front of him. With the opportunity to come put tires on. But I feel like, Kevin Harvick, who was leading that deal at the end, still finished second on 30-lap old tires. So Adam had to execute something a little different in the setup on that pit stop, whether it's tire pressures or something like that, to get Christopher where he could make the run that he did.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think, his car was probably, was definitely probably the best Toyota. And I think even, Kyle, talking to him after the race, he was like, I was on fresh tires, and he says, I could not pass the 4 car. He's like, I tried. And So obviously, the 20 car, they were just a little bit better, right? Just enough.
So you talked a little bit about that and brought it up. With the common parts that we've got with this new car, and it's been documented. Several people have talked about it, even within your organization. The Toyotas have been, I'd say, markedly off at road courses. How can that happen when everybody's got the same parts?
That's a great question. We're. I wish I knew that answer. I mean, we have every road course. We have tried different setups. We've tried. I mean, we are constantly working on trying to figure out, why we're lacking speed, and we just haven't been able to, figure it out yet. And I mean, yourself, it's like sometimes when things are going well, it's just easy and you don't know why. It's just, it works. And then when things are going bad, sometimes you obviously you can't figure out why either. And it's just, hopefully we'll just keep throwing, just keep working hard at it and trying things, and eventually we'll figure it out. I mean, I'm confident we will in time, but it's been tough.
Definitely the lack of practice, I think, and the opportunity to do some of that stuff makes it more difficult to work forward. We all have simulators and things like that, but that doesn't give you all the real racetrack experience that you need, does it?
No, certainly not. And when you have things like the tires getting hot and the fall off throughout the run and the brake fade and the brakes, and it's just so complicated. And and like you said, with the limited practice, it's not like you can do long runs and really figure out where you're at. So it's a constant battle.
Let's talk about your two remaining drivers, teams, combinations that we have going into the playoffs. You have Adam Stevens and Christopher Bell, and you have Chris Gabehart and Denny Hamlin going forward. You got 25% of the round of 8, and I've got to feel like you're pretty comfortable with the two bullets you have in the gun as you go into this next round.
Yeah, I mean, we feel good about it. I think that, this next round of races, at least, Vegas and Homestead are tracks that will be good for us. I think, historically we've run well. We've already got a race under our belts at Vegas. We tested at Homestead. That went well. So, we're excited about those two. The spring at Martinsville was we struggled big time there. And so we're kind of worried about that, but we did test and learn a bunch of things. So, I think the first two races, we got to score a lot of points for sure, though.
Yeah, definitely look at you. I mean, you were first and second before a late race caution at Vegas in the spring race. Look for that to be a great place for you guys to get back to. You brought up the organizational test at Homestead. Who went and performed that test for your organization, and how does that carry forward for you?
Yeah, I mean, we got an opportunity. We basically had, Martin drove, Denny, and Christopher. So we got all three of those guys in there. Kyle didn't make that one, but so they all got some lap times, got some laps there. And, I thought we learned a lot. It was a really good test, productive. We seem to have good speed. So I think we feel pretty good about that one.
You have an interesting dynamic there, and I'm always curious about this, Wally, because you've got two teams that continue on in the playoffs and two teams that are not going. But obviously the two teams that are not moving on, Martin Truex Jr. and Kyle Busch's team, they've got sponsors and crew members and guys everyone's looking for. Does, though, that change the dynamic a little bit up there in the shop, or is there a point where it changes the dynamic that we've reached or not reached, or not at all?
I mean, I think that, obviously to say it doesn't change the dynamic at all would be, not true. But I think that overall, I mean, it's business as usual. And I think that, everyone's got the same goals and trying to, work hard through this season and, do the right things. So I would say overall, it's pretty normal.
And you talked through it and brought up the three of them. How does Kyle leaving the organization change the dynamics of what's going on within the shop?
Well, it's tough, right? Because, he brings so much to the table. He has such his feedback and what he, his this racing experience and what he brings to us is so valuable. So you don't want to not include him in everything, right? Like, because he's still helping us every week. And I think that to say, you're not in a competition meeting or something like that would be a mistake. So we try to include him, on everything. And he's been real great about that. And, it's been a respectful thing. But, like I said, we were working on some things for Homestead for next year and, some concepts and, so he didn't go to that test. But, it's just kind of a give and take a little bit, I would say.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's very understandable as far as that goes. When you look at bigger picture stuff, Toyota Racing, you guys over there, Joe, 2311 Racing as well. Kurt Busch in the mix, a veteran, a lot of knowledge, a lot of savvy. Obviously, Kurt's on the sideline now, but that dynamic between those teams and everything like that, is it kind of a 6-car effort, or is it a 4 and a 2? How does that work, Wally?
Yeah, I mean, we have a really good working relationship with those guys. I think that, a lot of the employees that work there and run that organization have worked at Gibbs that, I've had a lot of, worked with them closely throughout the years. So for me personally, it's kind of just like a 6-car team in essence. We share, all the information, we work well together. But at the end of the day, it's still, when the green flag drops, it's kind of us versus them to a degree, right? Like we want to beat them and they want to beat us. So it's a healthy relationship, but it's definitely still competitive. And, I'm happy when they win, but obviously not, it's not the same as if a JGR car wins, right?
The bonus money's not there.
The
right?
bonus money's not there.
As they continue to grow, do you see that maintaining that, or do you see them becoming more of their own entity in that respect?
Well, I think that, that's another thing where you have to consider, where the sport is going and, how with limited resources, what's the best for both teams, right? So, does it make sense for them to do to hang their own bodies and for us to do it separately, or we better continue to work together and try to, to do it one way and be more efficient and, spend our money on other things that we think that can make us go faster as a group. So I think that, again, it's a balance. I think they want to do some things on their own and, and that's fine as well.
There's a couple pieces I want to go off of that. And as you talk about spending money in the right places, the next gen car has brought up it's a different set of challenges and a different place and mindset really to go find speed. How's that transition been?
It's been difficult for us. I mean, I think that we all kind of knew it was going to happen and we were kind of like, we knew, but we really weren't prepared, I think. So I think that after this season, we've learned a lot. And I think that, you're starting to, you're starting to shift your resources where you think they need to be. And I think that as we can start focusing on the simulation more and, having a better understanding of the tires and things like that, I think over time, I think you will see some of a gap once again in some of the cars performing. But I think right now it was so new for everybody that there's a lot of parity right now.
Yeah. And one more that I wanted to build off that your comments there, it crossed my mind as you talk about the 6-car team. Do you guys internally, is there discussion about how they can grow that 2311 team to more cars? Because as I look at speedway racing, and I'll say, I've said this, I think I said this on this program. If not, I've said it on the other. I feel like if the Toyota camp had 10 cars, not 6, that Denny Hamlin has 10 wins, not whatever he's got. Like Denny's that good, but I don't feel like as speedway racing has become more manufacturer kind of team driven, I feel like you guys are a deficit in that respect.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a constant struggle for us because, we'll have these strategy meetings for the speedways and we're like, well, we got 6 cars and, we're going to pit on this lap and, one guy slides through his box or this, or, he gets a bad stop and now we're down to 4 and, we're in trouble. So we, a lot of our strategy is dictated off what the other teams or the other OEMs do. And, we have to see what the Fords do and react off of them or the Chevys. And like you said, at the end of the race, a lot of times, we'll only have 3 or 4 cars left due to, crashes and stuff. So it's not ideal for sure.
Wally, you've talked about the challenges of getting your arms around this car. Todd asked you about getting the speed around this car. The grind of this season, this car, this past off season, all of this, I know we're 4 weeks away from the end of the year, and you guys still have a lot of business to tend to before we get to Phoenix and through Phoenix. But I can't imagine as a competition director that when you get through Phoenix, I know you're working on next year. I know they're not closing the doors down, but there's got to be just like a really, really a little bit of a chance to breathe when we get done at Phoenix, because this grind has gone back into last season with the development of this car.
Yeah, I would say for sure. And I think especially, it's been really tough on like the road crews this year with, the schedule. They haven't had a week off and it's been a real big grind. So I can tell you for sure those guys are looking for some time off. And so they're digging really hard now. And, they haven't had many days off like in weeks, like probably 10, 12 weeks. So, it's been really tough for them. The shop-based crew, it's a lot more structured and organized, and I think that it's a little more business as usual for them and kind of routine. So it hasn't been that bad, but from from the race team side, definitely it's been a struggle. And I think even going forward to next year, like you said, you want to kind of take a breath, but like there's so much change coming. We were talking about safety updates and body updates. And, it's kind of like starting all over again from parts and pieces, and all the struggles we had at the beginning of last year, I think are going to happen all over again. So we'll see.
Oh, do you see the off season bringing you testing like we did last year from NASCAR standpoint as the new pieces are developed, or are we past that where it'll be more of a normal off season for you?
I think it will be. I mean, as far as I know, I don't anticipate any really, emergency type tests or anything like that. I think there's already a tire test scheduled in January. So I think I think the off season will be okay in that regards.
We don't know exactly. You probably have a better insight into this as far as what all NASCAR's looking at changing. I know there's been so much talk about the safety and the rear clip and everything like this. Wally, I mean, are they major changes? Are they minor? I don't know that there is minor changes because everything is so technical, so competitive, but how significant are the things that you're hearing coming down the pipeline for you guys?
I mean, I think it's significant enough that, I mean, when you're talking about a rear clip and bumper structures, I mean, it's rebuilding a complete car, obviously, but I mean, the way they go together fast and stuff like that, I don't feel like it's going to be a major issue to make these changes. It's just when will the parts be available and when will we have access to them, I think.
Yeah.
Familiar. Sounds familiar. Yeah.
we did hear that for about 6 months, didn't we?
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, as we look at, talked about Kyle leaving, but part of with Kyle leaving is that KBM has left the development program for Toyota. Does that put more on you guys' Xfinity program to take that driver development piece forward?
Yeah, I would say that's, I think that's really important, right? I mean, you can kind of look at our driver lineup and, we're kind of a little bit of a mix now, but we got some guys that are, looking to, probably retire in the next, how many years, I don't know, but, we definitely have to keep bringing this young talent up. And I think the Xfinity program for us is good for that, for sure.
Yeah, lots going on, that is for sure. And you have lots going on away from the NASCAR world. Wally Brown Racing, okay? This is a flat track motorcycle team. You founded this team back in 2019. You've got a couple wins this season. Didn't you have enough going on? What was the decision like for you to add a flat track motorcycle racing team to your schedule, to your life, to everything? Why?
Well, obviously, I didn't really think that through very well. So. But, for me personally, I've always been around motorcycles, and that was kind of my thing growing up through my family. And I always wanted to do be involved in motorcycles, but my dad was like, "That's too dangerous. You're not doing that. So we're gonna go, do race cars." So that's kind of been, the way it's been for me my whole life. But a few years ago, I was like, I always wanted to be able to, have a team and run some races and, just to try it and, just because I love it. It's a great sport. I don't know if you guys ever followed it or the American Flat Track Series, but it's great racing. I believe I think it's owned by NASCAR and the France family, actually. So they're big supporters of it. And, I think it's like an 18 race schedule, but, just to your point with this busy schedule, we've only done 5 races this year. So, but it's a lot of fun and it's a good challenge.
It is. That is cool. Your grandfather, I was doing some history, your grandfather, Walt, he used to race Indian motorcycles. So this is a family legacy for you.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. He worked at the Indian factory. He managed the factory race team. He raced, he hill climbed. My dad raced. He worked at the BSA motorcycle company. So yeah, it's kind of a family thing for sure.
That's really cool.
That is cool. Are you a factory aligned team, an independent team? I don't even know how that works.
Yeah, I mean, basically we have some factory support from KTM. So that's our first year running KTMs this year in the production twins class.
Well, couple of wins, including Springfield. I know that's one of the big historic races, so got to feel pretty good about that. That's got to be that. Is it? I mean, I know it's a lot of work and a lot of energy, but it's got to be a neat diversion for you as well to take your mind off from the NASCAR side and put it over on that side.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of fun. You know, like it's a chance to get your hands dirty, and you don't get a chance to do that very often anymore. And you know, just to be able to use the experience you have in, you know, a different form of motorsports and be able to apply it to something else is kind of fun. So.
I totally get that.
Todd's totally over here getting his hands dirty. Yeah.
Yeah. I always had car projects going in the garage because I managed all day long. I want to work on them. So yeah, I get that completely. And I got to think that, you know, sometimes getting a different perspective, it's racing still, right? But it's different, but a different perspective sometimes refreshes your head going forward and what you've got going on. It can be a win-win.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that, you know, you could argue, you know, some might say it's a distraction and this and that, but others might say, you know, it could help you. I mean, you look at, you know, some of the different drivers doing dirt racing and things like that. They, you know, they think it makes them better. I mean, you know, I go around with that approach as well. You know what I mean?
There we go.
You know.
Good stuff. Wally, always great to catch up with you. We appreciate the time. We wish you the best as we continue on into the round of 8 with all 4 of your drivers, but the 2 drivers that run for the playoffs, and wish you the best. We appreciate you joining us.
Yep, thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
There we go. Wally Brown Jr. joining us from up at Joe Gibbs Racing. Stay with us. More Crew Call in just a moment. Welcome back to Crew Call, presented by Flow Racing. We are the home, or Flow Racing is the home of NASCAR Roots. Over 1,300 live events and on-demand events. You can go to flowracing.com/GoMRN. The headliner this week, the ARCA Menard Series from the Bull Ring at Las Vegas. So Friday night racing over at the Bull Ring, and then NASCAR Cup Series and Xfinity Series rolls over to Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Again, flowracing.com/GoMRN, flowracing.com/GoMRN. And Todd, when we look at the round of 8 and we look at Las Vegas, what stands out to me as I'm looking at this, Chase Elliott, the points have been reset. Mm-hmm. Chase Elliott up 31 from the cutoff point. There are 20 points between Joey Logano, who is number 2, and Chase Briscoe, who is number 8.
Yes.
Chase Briscoe can be tied with Joey Logano at the end of stage 2.
Yeah.
At Vegas. That's how tight this thing is.
Yeah, it is. And we've seen chaos through the first 2 rounds. What would make us think that we're not going to see it this round, right?
Yeah.
More traditional round with 2 mile-and-a-halves, you know, and honestly, 2 of my favorite racetracks. I think Vegas is really cool. It's rough.
Yeah.
It's the second roughest racetrack we go to. Charlotte being the roughest, I would say. But so you got to handle that. You got to handle through the bumps. You got to go through that. You know, the shock stops will be a challenge for these guys. Just how you balance all those things. And then Homestead, which it's just my favorite racetrack. Of all the racetracks, I think Homestead is. I was disappointed when the championship went away from Homestead because I thought it was a perfect challenge for everybody. But glad to see it back in the playoffs.
Yeah,
and being a pretty important race in it with all these guys, as Wally talked about, they did a test up there. Mm-hmm. The guys that it's going to be fun to see what happens this weekend. The car that can win this weekend, I think, is the odds-on favorite to win the championship because they've got 3 weeks to work on their Phoenix stuff.
Yeah,
absolutely. For us in 2018.
Yeah,
we won the championship by winning Martinsville.
So you guys won early on. We
won Martinsville. That was the opening race of this. That was the one where us and Martin Truex.
Oh yes, I remember that one. Yes, absolutely. Yeah,
I was like, I got done with it. We were side by side. Martin cleared us to come down the backstretch for the last lap. I said to Joey, I said, "Well played to get yourself behind him." He said, "No, he just beat me." Like, well, you weren't going to beat him from the outside. So, but winning that race puts you where your shop, everybody is focused on the championship because you are in it. You're not trying to get in it. You're now in it. And that, I think, this weekend is a great reward for somebody who wins.
I think it is also, and I think because we have a traditional race in Las Vegas, a traditional race at Homestead, and there is a lot of concern about Martinsville.
Yep.
There's a lot of concern, and we're just going to have to see. We don't know what the answer to Martinsville is. To me, it's like you win this week at Vegas, you win at Homestead. You're sort of like Chase Elliott at the Roval. You're like, Okay. Yeah, we got shoved out of the way. Okay, but we'll go get them next week. I think you set yourself up not having to worry about that wild card, whatever Martinsville's going to be.
Right. And so this weekend you're going to have Kyle Busch or Kevin Harvick win.
Yes,
nobody's guaranteed through.
Exactly.
And then Tyler Reddick and Kyle Larson are going to battle at Homestead up on the wall.
Yeah, exactly.
And everybody's going to be worried about getting to Martinsville.
And everybody and all 8 of them have to go to Martinsville with a nightmare.
Because that's how the 2022 playoffs have run.
But
yeah. It'll be really interesting to see what happens. The new car has made the field tighter.
Yeah,
and I think that's part of what's brought. We haven't had just the playoff cars dominating. We've had non-playoff cars in the mix every week. Kevin Harvick was going to win if the caution doesn't come out. The second one. Yeah. Chase Elliott was going to win if none of the cautions came out. He was gone.
He was long gone. Yeah.
But the first one, Kevin Harvick was in a great position, and
that caution comes out. And,
Wally would probably argue with me and say that Christopher was going to run him down, but I'm not sure where that was going to be.
Yeah,
it's just
the way it is.
It's going to be great.
I do. We generally. I do want to go back and mention this as well. Colleague Racing. Mm-hmm. Not only their first time both cars were in the top 10, both cars were in the top 5.
Yeah.
I think AJ Allmendinger, and I love that AJ is getting another opportunity to go Cup Series racing. That was announced last week.
Yeah.
And I'm also glad Daniel Hemrick is back with the Xfinity Series. Colleague really has this thing rolling, but we are seeing Justin Haley came out at the Coliseum and we're like, oh my gosh, this is great. And then he kind of settled in. But I think we're seeing Justin Haley over the last month or two at the front of the field. I think Colleague Racing is setting themselves in a really nice spot.
I do too. I really think if you look back at it, I think that Justin Haley's run forward was set back pretty hard when Trent Owens had a 4-week suspension for a wheel coming off.
Yeah, you're right about that.
And that pretty much, because as Wally talked about, the learning curve of this car has just been immense.
Yeah, and you took
and when you took him Trent away from being at the racetrack for 4 weeks, I think that hurt that program. Matt Swiderski does a great job with that 16 car for him.
Sure.
But that's a challenge too, because you're rotating drivers through. So they didn't have any continuity at the racetrack for a month. And I think that's a month that kind of sets them back. You're starting to see them continue their work forward. I'm excited to see what happens with that program being a 2-car team and AJ being there every week. It's going to be the sport's awesome right now.
I know it is. It's like you can go through every one of these scenarios, and it's just so exciting. It really is. You're sitting there. You got to. I left Talladega, and I'm like, man, if you're Petty GMS, you got to feel really, really good about where you're at going forward with Noah Gragson and with Eric Jones. And then I leave the Roval. I'm like, man, if you're Colleague Racing, you got to be feeling really, really good. Both are accurate. Both are right. Yes. Wow, where's this go? This is pretty cool stuff.
The thing this has done is it stole a little bit of the, okay, if I'm Hendrick Motorsports or Team Penske or JGR, they aren't just on this pedestal, or Stuart Haas at one point on this pedestal anymore. They're in the mix.
They're in the mix. Exactly.
It's become. I mean, that's why we have so many winners this year.
No doubt.
There's 20. I can lay out. We've had 19 winners.
Yeah, I think so. 19 or 20.
19 or 20. And Martin Truex hasn't won. Ryan Blaney hasn't won. Brad Keselowski hasn't won.
There's still guys.
I could put 20. I could legitimately say there's 25 guys every week that could win.
Right.
Easily.
Exactly.
And not be stretching. Right. So what a great place the sport's in.
It really is. Great stuff, that's for sure. Las Vegas Motor Speedway is where the tour goes to, and our friends at Performance Racing Network have the coverage all weekend long. We get back busy at Homestead, Miami Speedway. We get the final 3, Homestead, Martinsville, and Phoenix, and can't wait to get back to the racetrack. So fun stuff, and great catching up with Wally Brown, wasn't it? Pretty cool stuff.
Awesome. Awesome. What a great guy.
Yes, absolutely. So we do appreciate Wally joining us, but more important than all of that, thank you for joining us. This is Crew Call presented by Flow Racing, the home of NASCAR roots.